Get it up there close. I know.
There
There we go. All right. Oh no, I've lost my video already. So we're trying something different, y'all. Be afraid.
Oh, no, you're good.
I got you. So we are going to try to do, because I don't trust you, Facebook, we're going to try and do both YouTube and Facebook simultaneously, because we almost got in a jam just like we did last month and we had to cancel the super thing. So I'm going to see if I can be A to D. No, I've got the wonderful Heidi here to help me check, so you can post things on. I see things posting. I got to figure out how to be able to read that. Oh, look, there we go.
There we go.
Can you type in there and say, tell us who you are, where you're from, and type in any questions? So, and if you haven't played here before, that's the name of the game here. We're going to, it's 6:00, so I can go ahead and get started right away. So if you don't know it, I'm Bob Linde. I am both a registered herbalist with the American Herbalist Guild and an acupuncture physician here in sunny St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm the director of the School of Herbal Studies and one of many of the great acupuncturists and herbalists here at Acupuncture and Herbal Therapies. If you don't know, we have a Western and a Chinese herbal program all the way from beginner. Oh, hey, lots of people on there already. This is awesome. And actually, if you write down questions as they come in, and I'll keep an eye on this one, and you keep an eye on that one, we got it covered. And we've got a Western and a Chinese herbal program here. Yeah, we'll get through the announcements here, and then we'll get right to the question. I have some amazing questions. Like, I think this is some of the best questions I've ever gotten before. So, but there's plenty of space for y'all to ask your questions. So jump in here as you choose to, and we'll go through them all as time allows. Oh, hey, Chastity, that's your questions I was talking about. I got them right here. So we're going to get to those questions right away. Marcus, man, I've been missing out. All my people are here on YouTube. No, I like my Facebook people too. But we've got a Western Chinese herbal program from beginner all the way through practitioner with student clinic 3 nights a week. I actually supervise, and actually I guess I teach at Dragon Rises, the acupuncture school just south of here. And we've got their lovely interns here. On Monday nights, on Tuesday night is my Western herb students in their final year. And on Wednesday night is my Chinese herb students. So you can call to the office or go on the website and find out more, acuherbals.com or traditionsherbschool.com, and find out more. Tonight, actually starting in about an hour, we've got the full moon market going on here. So this is an event that the Blue Raven Collective takes over the space for the evening, and they have a really awesome drum circle, usually about 20 plus vendors. And as long as it's not electrical storm out there, we have it whatever the Friday is closest to the full moon. So as soon as we're done here, I'm going out there to enjoy that. And if you don't know it, we've got lots of classes. You don't always have to be in the program. So I'm excited. This is the 3rd year we've done the Understanding Blood Work series. So the first one is Decoding Metabolic Health. That's this July 2nd. Part 2 is Unlocking the Secrets. That's my part. Basically, I'm going to tell you how to get your doctor to do what they're supposed to, and looking at some of the ratios of things and hints that kind of get us to better utilize some of that most basic blood work. And then Martina is going to be jumping in on August 6th, talking about how we see blood work through the lens of Chinese medicine and how to use that blood work with your acupuncture physician or your Chinese herbalist to get better benefit out of getting vampired. And I'm not going to go through all of our cool things. If you don't know, we do this on the last Friday of every month. It usually runs on the full moon market. So I lose some of my full moon market time, and started this during COVID because I missed y'all and I miss talking to people. So, and if you're just, I got a bunch of people on Facebook. So come on, post your questions there in the chat, whether you're on YouTube or chat. Post any questions you've got about herbs, Chinese medicine, Western herbal medicine. I can't say I know all the bioregional herbs, but I'm a big fan. So I guess we'll jump right into this since I don't see anybody posting any other questions. I got these great ones started here. So Chastity, I love these questions. So much detail and really hard questions. And I can only assume that you're dealing with the way easier to say LPR, the laryngopharyngeal reflux, which is honestly, it's kind of like GERD or acid reflux, except it's a little bit further up in the throat. And it's oftentimes, I won't say symptom 3, but it's not that classic acid reflux with burning that we see on the TV commercials and things like that. It also tends not to respond well to a lot of the standard treatments, the acid reflux meds, if it's identified at all. Oddly enough, one of the key symptoms of it, and it's really, I don't get a lot of people wandering in here with that diagnosis. Usually they just call it GERD or acid reflux or some version of that. But it's frequently diagnosed as globus hysterica, which is an older version of when people come in there and got a glass of water and this constant clearing of the throat where they now I have to drink something because I feel like I got something caught in my throat, where it always feels like there's something caught in your throat. You get a endoscope and basically they don't see anything. You haven't choking on a fish bone. And the nice thing is it fits very well with Chinese medicine. And, you know, when we do the open forum like this, sometimes I'm very medical, sometimes I'm very Western herb, and sometimes I'm crazy Chinese herb medicine. So I kind of have fun bouncing through the different systems. And this is one where I really like Chinese medicine. And as I read, you know, there's part A through Z here is clearly, and I would say frequently with acid reflux stuff, you don't get a lot of relief. In this particular, the LPR, you don't see, and even with GERD, you don't get a lot of relief frequently. And the problem is that, well, actually, let me start with Western. So Western medicine, if they see any kind of inflammation in the throat, they immediately assume that it's an excess of stomach acid and put you on either a PPI, proton pump inhibitor, or an H2 blocker, histamine blocker, which are your acid reflux meds, those classic acid reflux meds. The problem is it frequently isn't an acid reflux issue. Oh, and by the way, I'm wearing my hat because it is Gay Pride, and this is the St. Pete has one of the largest Gay Pride celebrations here in St. Petersburg. Their night parade is tomorrow, I believe. And then the classic Grand Central Station, our Grand Central District, where we used to have the clinic, they knock the whole street off and have all kinds of fun vendors and music and you name it. I'm gonna go. I don't have to teach Sunday. Yay, Ruthie's teaching. So I thought I'd wear this. I do it every year, but now I can read better. So the I would say a good portion of the time it's low stomach acid, and the symptom pattern of low stomach acid are very similar to the high stomach acid. The other thing that we see is hiatal hernia. That usually doesn't show up as the laryngopharyngeal reflux, but when we have, sorry, I gotta shift my cameras there. So your diaphragm, here's your stomach. If my fist was the stomach and this was your esophagus, my thumb sticking up, that from bending over, too many sit-ups, pregnancy, boop, your stomach kind of protrudes a little bit above the diaphragm, and it's a structural issue. And so basically the sphincters, those things that are supposed to close, keeping food and acid and fumes and so forth from popping up, tend not to do it very well when it's in the wrong place. And so unfortunately, up until very recently, and I will say nice things here in a second, the treatment for this structural issue was acid-reducing medications, even though it wasn't an acid issue, was a structural issue. I've only in the last year and a half, 2 years now, I've started to see my first patients come through where they've actually had surgery to put their stomach back, and it fixes it most of the time. So yay, they finally figured out that they knew what it was, but they just treated it wrong for the last 50 plus years. Go figure. And so what we find is low stomach acid can be the LPR, just as easily as not, because we need a certain pH to signal those sphincters to close. So looking to see, and I think actually one of the statements in here was, I tried the HCL, it didn't work. Legit. So now I'm going to switch to Chinese medicine, because we were like, all right, we ruled out high stomach acid, we ruled out low stomach acid, issue still there, constantly clearing the throat or some sort of a tickle in the throat that's irritating, I'm sure as all can be. So we have something in Chinese medicine called plum pit syndrome. And it's literally something they've described for 2,000 years, the feeling of something caught in the throat, as if a pit of a plum was in your throat. And it is considered to be a combination of qi stagnation. For Western herbalists, that's a tense condition combined with phlegm, and they are caught in the throat here. There is and I'm going to type it in here because nobody's going to know what I said. We have a very classic formula, and it either works or it doesn't. It's called Ban Sha Hopawan. Oops, helps if I know how to spell Ban Sha Hopawan. Is a classic formula, and it's 2 herbs, BANXIA, Ban Sha HOUPOWAN. Ban Sha Hopawan is a combination of 2 herbs, Panelia, which only really used in Chinese medicine, and Hopo is magnolia bark. And so while magnolia bark has a downward energy, so it helps to guide the qi back down. So that tenseness literally gets stuck with the phlegm and combines into this very invisible, but it creates that feeling of something caught in the throat. The cool thing about Ban Sha Hopawan, if it's going to work, it'll do it within a week. And it may not go away completely, but you'll see a dramatic improvement with that formulation. There are other options besides that, but I would say it's a running joke when I teach diagnostics to my students. I always say, you should always do a complete intake and do all the stuff and take the tongue on the pulse. But if somebody comes in and it's like, hey, you got a glass of water, and through the whole intake, they're doing that, you're already done. You already know 5 minutes into it, you just hand them the formula and make sure there's no other medications that need to be, we need to be concerned with contraindications. It is one of those that even comes as a pre-made pill. You don't have to get special customized anything with it. So it's a really nice approach. And I'm quite sure that we could treat that appropriately with Western herbs. But I will say I do like the Chinese medicine because it has this very tried and true, hundreds of years of this very specific formula put together. If we were looking at it from a Western perspective, we would, without a doubt, add some things like ginger, probably orange peel, maybe holy basil. And although it's not commonly used, magnolia is used in Western herbal medicine as well. We tend to use the leaf more, where the Chinese use the bark and the flower buds. But I think the leaf would have a similar positive benefit. Oddly, catnip would also work well with this herb. So I would say you can still do it, and you can, based on things like tongue and pulse, if that's something that we could adjust how much we use for phlegm, how much we use for that tense or qi stagnation kind of concept. But the secret is to guide it downward. So catnip I love for nausea, vomiting, the energy going the wrong way, coming up, like your stomach energy is supposed to go down. If it doesn't, it's called vomiting. So catnip works. Obviously, ginger. Oh, I missed a whole crap ton of questions. I'm embarrassed. Ooh, lupus. Well, we can come back around for lupus. I got you, Margaret. Red clover and other stuff. Oops, wait, there's more for lymphatic. Okay. Lymphatics. So many good lymphatics. And in particular, nighttime, because you don't want to do anything stimulating. And red clover, of course, is a great one. All right, we'll come back to that. Let me finish. This one's going to take me a minute on the whole acid refluxy stuff with plum pit. Catnip is, everybody says, ooh, ginger is good for nausea, and they usually even use that during first trimester, and it's great. But in case you didn't know, ginger's really warm. And so if somebody has a red tongue or tends to run hot, catnip is such a nice replacement for it. Oddly enough, peach leaf is another good choice. And it's funny, I don't like mint or any of your mint-related peppermints and mints specifically for this, even though it does have a downward energy. People use it for nausea and vomiting. It's very dispersing. So if you used mint in there, I would use very little. I would generally go for the catnip or the ginger in this case. But then you really got to add in those stress herbs if you're going to do it strictly from a Western construct. So holy basil, not really Western, it's Ayurvedic, but good enough. But any of your other, I really like your citrus peel. So orange peel is kind of my go-to. And I'm going to read these questions just because they tried everything you can imagine, pepsin and so forth. And that's really what I'm going to. Great question. The idea of what about diet and lifestyle changes, because they feel like they've done all of them. I would say the diet and lifestyle changes are good for eating slower, eating smaller meals, avoiding those trigger foods. Those are your classic acid reflux. And honestly, Western medicine doesn't really differentiate. Acidy stomach, bloating, any kind of digestive junk, we kind of say the same things. And I would tell you the same things like, oh, what are your trigger foods? I will say the difference is sometimes you'll find those trigger foods fall into one of those categories where it's like it's a nightshade or it's gluten or some other food sensitivity that we commonly see. Certainly trying to minimize those would be important. And then Chastity, obviously you've heard me rail against alkaline water. So it is an interesting idea. The alkaline water as a throat spray would be less offensive. And so I would say if the alkaline throat spray helps, I think that would be an important distinction, because that might mean there is too much acid, or it might just be soothing. I would, and you had a couple of, you had like the seaweed, the alginine, which is a soothing, the slippery elm, marshmallow oil, really gentle soothing. I love the clear gel of aloe is also a good soothing. The problem is, of course, it's not fixing anything. And I'm assuming you're all the way down.
It's all the way down.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to say any of those are fine with the alkaline water. If you're using it as throat spray, I would say be careful you're not reducing your stomach acid, because we do want to keep some stomach acid. With a lot of, and I'm going to switch from saying the LPR and say plum pit syndrome, that is frequently not dependent on whether or not you're eating. Sometimes food will kind of take that away a little bit, but a lot of times it's like, no, I'm just walking down the street. Whether I ate or didn't eat doesn't have a whole lot to do with it. So in that case, I guarantee the Bansha Hopawan is going to be the magic win on that. But if there is that's a calming, mild, electric, swelling, and bug bites. Oh, cool. That's an easy one. Bug bites. And Ashley, and I'm going to come back to you here in a second. Where are you in the world? Because that might determine what I actually tell you as far as that goes. Why does this keep bouncing down? It's so irritating. So alkaline water, we asked that. When primary demulcents, so that's what we were talking about, the slippery elm and marshmallow, and I didn't see you add in here DGL. I also like the deglycerized licorice and so licorice itself has some potential issues as you go through time. It can screw up It can cause high blood pressure, potassium balance gets messed up, and things like that. So when it's been deglycerized, which you can buy DGL, it's very soothing, cooling to the throat in particular. So that might be a good add-on. My classic combination is DGL, slippery elm, and marshmallow leaf, and just ground into a fine powder, added to some water, and consumed. I'll use that to get people off of acid reflux meds a lot until we get their stomach balanced back up. Boy, and you brought up something that has been, because I have so many older patients who really struggle with acid reflux, primarily because of low stomach acid, but they're already hooked on the acid reflux meds. And I can get them off the acid reflux meds using those demulcents, the DGL and such. But I need to get them on HCl, but the pills are so big. All the companies that I found, and I've literally searched high and low for one that's smaller, and you can't just open the capsule up because it's literally hydrochloric acid. It'll burn a hole in your throat. And I really wish they made like these super tiny ones that we could use for when people have a difficult time swallowing. So I don't have a good answer for that. I've not tried this, but like you can buy different size blank capsules. You could probably take the HCl out of the big capsules and recapsulate them. Wear gloves, rubber gloves, so you don't burn tips of your fingers off unless you're trying to get away from the man. It's a good way to fool the FBI. Just kidding. That would be an option. And then the seaweeds. It's funny. All the sea moss is really popular and has some real benefits. I think seaweed good, and there has been so many seaweed products out there long before the sea moss became super popular. And the brown seaweed, I think, is usually the one they make the alginine out of. And that's this very refined. I would say whether you're doing the actual, some sort of combination of seaweeds that are encapsulated or consumed in any number of different ways, or is the capsule of it. Or I think they even sell them as like chewables and things like that. It's not what I've worked with a lot. It's generally consumed after the meal to soothe the throat, which is fine. And I would say the seaweeds usually break down really well. I don't have a brand that I was like, oh, I love this brand. And a lot of times you do, like reading the ingredients, the fillers, binders, and lubricants on any product. That's always such an issue to stick with those and finding a good one. And I hate to say this, I've been running into this a lot lately. Companies are changing their fillers. They're changing, like we just had a company that we love that switched to corn. And I'm like, seriously, I have a corn sensitivity, which makes my popcorn my nemesis. And so how do we, we're constantly having to check these companies because as they're sold, as supply lines change, as products get too expensive in this current environment, it gets so challenging. So we constantly have to be checking our companies, rereading the labels of even things that you thought were safe in the past. And so traditional energetic practices, would I consider supportive for chronic throat irritation? Boy, it's funny, especially, and I'm assuming you've tried half of whatever I could come up with little to no success. But when we went the normal doctor route and we went and saw 3 different doctors and different GI docs, and you went to a functional doc and they gave you this and that. And now you're, $10,000 poorer. And as you go through this process and, I hate to say it, you kind of just keep going through. And so obviously I'm biased. I like us herbalists. I like acupuncture in particular for this, but I don't think chiropractic's wrong. I think chiropractic can sometimes have really good success. And whether we're looking at is very classic thoracic spine kind of stuff, or we're looking at like the ones that are a little fancier, way more expensive, but the Atlas specialist can really do some cool stuff. And you're like, they may not even be looking at the throat. And even massage therapy can have And again, that would be a very unique. Not everybody's comfortable getting their neck massaged or their abdomen. It's funny. Massage therapists will massage some places that are not comfortable at times, and it's so rare to find a massage therapist who will touch the abdomen. And so I'm a big fan for those better trained folks who. By the way, I love that there's like all kinds of questions showing up on here. I'm going to be talking till the cows come home. All right, I got that one. Oh, good. I can talk about some local plants for you. Daniel, what up? Oh, wait. Oh, acid reflux. I'm going to come back to you, Daniel. Reflux. Pregnancy. Got you.
Can I put this on Instagram Live?
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Cool.
Yeah, the more the merrier. Then we're going to post we're going to have like a wall of, different sources here. Hi. All right, this is over the top now. What up? Are we live? All right.
It is, yeah.
Now we're on Instagram Live. We're going to just go insane here. So I would say I would probably like acupuncture, chiropractic, and massage kind of in some version of that order. But now I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Because, at least according to Chinese medicine, this specific set of symptoms that are classic with the LPR, with a laryngopharyngeal reflux, if you're just joining us, boy, I had to practice saying that, just so you know. Some of these are just a mouthful of marbles to say, so LPR. Because we see that as qi stagnation, that is a stress-related response. And so we're talking about vagus nerve. I would say hypnotherapy would not be wrong either. And I'm a huge fan of hypnotherapy. And so if we're like, nope, the Pancha didn't work and none of these other stupid things are working, I would say that's not wrong. And, just like with acupuncture, with MDs, with you name it, finding the right one is the trick. It's like, I'm not the right one for everybody. And so that's why I got 4 practitioners here, because I want people to get in with the person who they're going to click best with, if the communication's going to be the best, and who has some experience ideally with a particular issue. So, all right, we got that. So I think phenomenal question is the last one. And then we're going to get to everybody else. I promise I'm not dissing y'all. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, from a spiritual perspective, how do you understand chronic throat conditions as a part of the person's emotional, spiritual, or life journey? What spiritual traditions, teachings, or inner work do you find meaningful when exploring the deeper roots of chronic throat irritation? I just think that's a brilliant question. And I think that was my favorite question of all of those. And I would say medicine makes a huge error, and whether it's alternative medicine, whether it's the dominant medicine, you name it. I think too often we separate those things. It's like, we got to go to a spiritual healer for that. We got to go to the priest for that. We got to go to the crazy acupuncturist for that. We got to go like literally for an MD who doesn't recognize the importance of our spiritual / emotional health because they're so tightly intertwined, is literally like everybody should be seeing a counselor. Everybody should be, counselors / spiritual healers. It's funny, you can be a CEU provider for mental health counselors. They can do anything. Like, you can go and do the craziest thing, Tibetan bowl singing, you name it. That comes under that heading of mental health. And so I would say that concept of qi stagnation is the tip of the iceberg. That's how we choose this formula: plum pit syndrome, qi stagnation. And then we can easily say, oh, that's just stress. It's a tense condition. And it's like, why do we have that stress condition? Why here? And I would argue we're not being allowed to speak our truth. We're choking on our words. And there's a couple of ways that we can think that. That can be a job where you're not feeling heard or appreciated. That might be a relationship where you're not able to express yourself and you're feeling like I got to hold my stuff in. And that can come either from current or past, and even in past lives. And obviously, you should have a job or a relationship where you feel comfortable expressing yourself. Like, that's easy to say, but always hard to do, because maybe it's a good job, and it's hard to walk away from a good job that pays good and has bennies, especially in current world the way it is. Like, no, we're all happy to have a good job. One of my favorite things to tell my patients to do is I talk about in many cultures and traditions that the trees are these things that are so deeply rooted into the earth, and they bend and sway with the breeze. They provide us warmth when we're cold, when we build a fire. They provide a roof over our head. They provide us shelter. Depending on the tree, it provides us food or medicine. It is the greatest abundance that we have had for millennia comes from trees. Well, the other thing they do is they take on our burdens. They have a strong back that can take whatever we have to, whatever burden we choose to put onto them, they can handle that burden. And and so I literally say, go out into the forest and find a tree that catches your eye. Don't think about it. You have to speak it. You words have to come out of your mouth. And so if you want to cuss out your boss, you go up to that oak tree, you sit underneath it, I want to tell my boss something, and you just let it out. I don't care about the people walking by, and you give that tree a hug when you're done, and you thank it for taking all that burden on. And you do that every day, every week, whatever you need to do. That's my personal recommendation for way too many of my patients, because too often we're not heard. And I'm going to tell a quick story about that. And some of you have heard this before. We'll spend all day talking about this. Promise, we're not neglecting the rest of y'all. I had a person who came in. She was born deaf, and sadly, I don't sign. And so she brought, I think it was a relative, came in and translated for us. And she had stage 4 cancer, and she'd gone through, radiation, chemo. They was like, "You're not going to make it. Didn't change. Go home and die." And that's when she came to see me. And so we did mostly herbs. She was hardcore. She was doing the raw herbs, and was getting acupuncture as well. And I was about 5 or 6 treatments in it, and I felt like we'd seen some good progress, just her energy levels, tongue and pulse, and all those kinds of things. It was like she'd not gone back to the oncologist yet. And at some point, I feel like we're stuck. We haven't progressed. And so I said, if I'm not progressing, I missed something. I need to go back and reevaluate this case. And so I was like, I don't think I remember what was going on in your life right before you got diagnosed with cancer. She's like, I was caretaking for my brother. I was like, what's up with your brother? He was like, well, he was really sick. He was homebound, bedbound, and he died. And a week later, I was diagnosed with cancer. I was like, did you ever get to say goodbye? And as I said those words, I thought about it. She was like, yes, of course. She was like, I signed it. I was like, so you didn't speak it, you signed it. She was like confused, like she doesn't speak, right? So she because she was born deaf, she never really was able to articulate. She read lips, she signed really well. And I was like, I think you need to actually say goodbye. And the idea has to come out of your mouth. And she was like, I don't think I can do that. I was like, nobody has to hear it. You merely have to say it. And I saw her another time. She's like, I didn't do it. And I didn't see her for a while. And I was like, I've clearly pissed this woman off. And I see her back on my schedule. And she comes in. I was like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. How are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm so sore. And I was like, oh, the cancer spread. She was like, yeah, I pressure washed and stained like 3 miles of fence yesterday. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, I'm cancer free. Literally, it turned such a corner. She didn't even know the words. She just spoke her thoughts. And that truth came out. And it was the last little bit that she needed to progress in that process. So if you can't say it to the individuals, just make sure you say it. And obviously, counseling can be a part of that. And I'll leave it there. Obviously, every case is unique, but that's usually all the spiritual aspects of finding your truth and speaking it in some form or fashion. And know that you don't necessarily need to cuss your boss out. You just got to make sure that shit comes out of your mouth. All right. That was a great one. You can write in more. And I'm going to double check I didn't miss anybody here. Here we go. All right, I got that, and I got those. All right, boy, another light subject: lupus. Jeez. So lupus is an autoimmune, and I wish I said, "Oh, here, this is it." There is not a single approach to lupus. I will say, with most autoimmune disorders, and lupus in particular, there's different types of lupus. Some are just on the skin, some are really attaching the muscles and joints and so forth. Um, with most autoimmune disorders, definitely with lupus, there tends to be triggers. So we have times when you're like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good today, with or without medications, doesn't matter. And then there's other days where you're literally crippled. You're not able to get out of bed. Or the rash is so painful that you're not able to function. Um, and so for most autoimmune disorders, and definitely for lupus, I find there's two triggers: stress and food. And it's not that there's bad foods or good foods. It's there are specific trigger foods. Those are food sensitivities. Oddly, I'm talking about that tomorrow for my foundation students. And so sometimes it's gluten, sometimes it's corn, sometimes it's nightshades. Actually, it's frequently nightshades. Nightshades are everywhere. Sometimes it's a particular chemical. And although there are tests for it, they're iffy. Like they oftentimes get it right, but not always. So doing a diary, a food diary, um, and correlating it to, I would say, poop and whatever your big symptoms are with your lupus, and remembering that they do vary. Sometimes it's usually within 12 to 24 hours, but sometimes it's delayed up to 2 or 3 days. So you can usually start to find that correlation. If you eliminate the foods and manage the stress, you can usually get it under control where it goes into remission and it's kind of a non-thing. Um, whilst I'm working with people with lupus in particular, I always have two formulas. So one formula is for when you've got a flare up. You're like, oh my God, I got to call in work. I'm not going to be able to function today. And so that one's usually very cold, very reducing, anti-inflammatory. And then when they're doing well, they're like, I don't know why, but I'm managing my stress. All of my symptoms are pretty much under control. Then I have one, and it's challenging because we'll look at things. It's like, oh, this is really good for the immune system, and that would be bad in the case of an autoimmune disorder. So we look at immune modulating herbs, things that regulate, and these are frequently the herbs we look at for stress. And so those things that regulate the body from a Chinese perspective, those regulate qi herbs. Free and Easy Wonder, Jiaowei Shayuan is one of the favorites. Not to say that's the right formula, but that's a very good example of a regulatory formula. I can usually do it with Western herbs. If it's more skin related, I tend to use things that are a little bit more skin focused. So I like my stinging nettles. I like my burdock. If it's attacking some of the other tissues, I'll look at things that are more tissue specific. Go-to cola is almost always in my, the connective tissue herb is almost always in my formulas. And we're going to talk about lymphatics next. So the red clover is a great one. The can't think of it. Cleavers is another one. Cleavers is a really good one. So usually very gentle herbs, and then really working with the person with the autoimmune disorder, lupus, to start to recognize, oh, my hands start to swell or hurt, or I just kind of get that brain fog, and that you can start to recognize, oh, tomorrow's going to be a lousy day. And so then you can regulate which formula you're going to be working with each time. So anytime you're dealing with autoimmune disorders, making sure your B12 levels are adequate, that there is oftentimes a triggering event that brings it on. That can be a stressor, but it can be a chemical. It can be mold in a house, mold and mildew. Sometimes it's a combination of both. Actually, it's frequently a combination of a chemical thing and a stressor. So it could be like, I got in a car accident when I just lost my job. At the same time, I got the flu. And then all of a sudden your immune system goes wackadoodle. And so looking at what those precipitating event or events were and trying to then work your way backwards to start to address those can go a long way with all of that. I would say lupus is definitely one of those because people are frequently on immunosuppressants or some type of chemotherapy. Find an herbalist around that can work with you on that. So, but I will say usually within about a year, you're able to put that into remission. Acupuncture speeds it up, but you can do it with herbs alone. Acupuncture is particularly good for flare-ups on most autoimmune, but lupus in particular. Lymphatics. Man, you guys are making me work today. I'll tell you what. So lymphatics, and it's really funny. My favorite lymphatic is water. I would say fighting it out for the top spot is diaphragmatic breathing, fancy talk belly breathing. So I'm going to get a quick class in diaphragmatic breathing here. So belly button, bottom of the ribs. So my diaphragm is this dome-shaped muscle that's right here. And so I always say, this is the way I learned it. Take your thumb, stick it in your belly button, relax your hand, connects the inner Laogun with the lower dantian. Doesn't matter. Other hand goes in the center of your chest. I don't care which hand's on top. And the trick is to relax. If I relax too much right now, I will fall over. So it makes it really hard to do. And what I'm going to do is when I relax and my diaphragm goes down, which is what's supposed to happen when we inhale, my belly will pooch out. And so side view. And I'm not doing anything with my belly. I don't know if you guys on YouTube can see me. Or that's the pizza I just ate. One of the two. And the difference is, oops, I got to tilt these down a little bit. Or when I'm stress breathing, only the top hand moves. See, my shoulders lift up. So I'm lifting up. I'm like trying to breathe this way. And that's the muscles of desperation, not respiration. And so the movement of that diaphragm up and down moves 2/3 of lymphatic fluids of our body. So again, this is one I tell my clients, my patients on a regular basis, 10 breaths when you wake up in the morning before you roll out of bed, and then 10 breaths at night while you're trying to go to sleep. And you specifically said, like, no, I want a nighttime routine to work on my lymphatics. Like, this is it. This is the single best one you can do. And the easy way to do it is really hard to do that standing up, and I had to fake the last little bit of it. Laying on your back with your knees bent so your feet are kind of flat on the floor, and start with the hands here. So if the upper hand, the one on the chest, moves, you're not doing it right. And I'm going to sound like a bad Yoda pun that as soon as you're trying to do it, you'll fail. You have to relax, and it's way we're supposed to breathe all the time. So there is no try. There's only do. And if any of you have children, usually from like birth to maybe the start of middle school, every little kid, you put them on their back, all belly. You hit middle school, the first stressor for most of us, even if you were the bully, you were stressed out because that's why you were a bully. And as soon as we hit that, we all end up with neck and shoulder pain. We make a small fortune for the massage therapist. And it's about relearning that diaphragmatic breathing, the belly breathing, embryonic breathing. It's advanced. Noses, counting, boxes, blah, blah, blah. Nobody's walking down the street doing that. Just breathe. Just make your diaphragm go up and down, and you will literally move 2/3 lymphatics of your body. It also increases the oxygenation, so you have more energy. I'm going to go far afield. I'm going to talk herbs in a second, I promise. We've all heard monkey mind, right? We all have this internal dialogue. The monkey mind is never complimentary. It is mean, nasty. We're tearing ourselves down worse than any person could ever tear us down. And if you've ever gone to I don't think they do this anymore, but if you went to the monkey house in the zoo, they always put plexiglass up. It's because monkeys sling poo. And all of us, when we're stressed out, when we're feeling our lowest, we have a whole pack of poo-slinging monkeys up inside our head, just having a party. And every time we stress breathe, look at where the energy goes. All of those monkeys got fed big bunches of bananas for them to be pooping all over our heads. So when we breathe down and we do that diaphragmatic breathing, instead of these shoulders going up and wearing those for earrings, look at where the energy goes. So the energy goes down. I fill up the bottom of my lungs. And so I'm directing it down to what the Chinese call the horse mind. This is the logical reasoning mind. And so, not that I have anything against monkeys, but I want to starve those stupid ass poo-slinging monkeys up in my head. And I want to nourish and feed these wonderful alfalfa and oats to my horse that resides down below my belly button. So, literally, you start with the 10 breaths twice a day and you work your way up to that's just the way we're supposed to breathe. No special anything needed. I know it sounds too simple, but that is literally, it also helps to balance the pH of your body so that it helps to prevent osteoporosis because it is the osteoclasts and osteoblasts secreting and absorbing calcium in our body that helps to maintain that perfect pH in our blood. And if we got to rely on the bones instead of the oxygen carbon dioxide exchange in our lungs, then we're going to end up with osteopenia and the osteoporosis. So breathing good. But other herbs. So I love cleavers. I think cleavers is such a wonderful, gentle lymphatic. It also tastes good. We have here, actually, back myself up there. Pellitory is another gentle, nice lymphatic. And you actually, sorry, for anybody who didn't catch this sooner, she said, but not red clover. Red clover is also a very gentle, great lymphatic that I love. But it's not always like there's any number of reasons why people might do it. There's concern with it with estrogen sensitive breast cancer. People who have estrogen dominance sometimes will try to avoid red clover. It's usually okay, but better safe than sorry in a lot of those. So pellitory I love, and we have a type of pellitory here that grows wild year round, the cucumber weed. And so it's pellitory spa, whatever our local one is. So cucumber weed tastes good. It's a wonderful, gentle lymphatic. There's also more aggressive lymphatics. Obviously, you got to be a little bit more skilled as an herbalist, but poke. Phytolacta americana is a great lymphatic. There's some South American herbs, the chuchuasi. I guess I should spell that because nobody knows what the hell I just said, as usual. Let me slide that there. Now I can see what I'm doing. So CHU, Huasi, HUASI, is a cooling, gentle lymphatic. Marshmallow is kind of a lymphatic. I like the root better than the leaf as a lymphatic. It's not a true lymphatic, but corn silk. Corn's in season. It's 4th of July. Yay! And so all of the hairs that you pull off of those, literally that's corn silk. And it's more diuretic than lymphatic. Oh, wait, I said at night. Probably don't want a diuretic lymphatic at night. You'll be up all night peeing. So forget that one. Use that in the morning. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's some other ones. What else grows around here that's good lymphatics? Yeah, that's probably it. That'll do for now. And I'm almost caught up. So if any of you are just jumping on, you've got any questions, please post who you are, where you're from, and post your questions. I won't hold you to put your names down there, but I appreciate seeing some of you on there. I always think it's fun to see where everybody comes from. So, and we had like a really simple one. For the, I'm going to make sure I read it right here. Also interested in the thoughts, thank you, Ashley. Calming mild allergic reactions, swelling, bug bites, red eyes, red, itchy, swollen, etc. And it's funny, like I would almost choose different things for each one of those. So bug bites, the one thing we all have handy is the Biden's alba, the Spanish needle, beggar's tick, whatever you happen to call it. And so it's the ratty looking daisy-like flower. If you're up north, maybe Georgia, you'll find it for a couple of months. Down here, it's a weed in everybody's yard. Is literally some of the best medicine that's out there. And so mashed up and we call it a spit poultice. You don't have to spit on it, like you're welcome to, but if it's an open wound, you don't want to do that. So just mashing it up and so it's a little juicy, and then putting it on there. It's cooling, moistening, and a wonderful anti-inflammatory. I'll tell a quick story. I got to watch my time. Okay, no, we're good on time. I was taking there's a pharmacy school, LECOM, a really nice school across the bay. And they had me come out there and do an herb drug interaction lecture out there. And of course, I always have to like go out and pull weeds from the parking lot and say, look, we got medicine. And they were baffled. They didn't understand that medicine came from plants. And up until about the 1970s, most of our medicines came from plants, some sort of an alkaloid from those. And they were like, can you take us out? I was like, sure. And so we rescheduled another time. And it was August here in Florida. And I don't know the Bradenton, Sarasota area. I was like, just find a park and I'll find places to talk about enough. And so they found one of these backwater, swampy, boggy places where there was a parking lot in August. And we get out there and let's just say pharmacists are really smart people. Like they have PhDs, where MDs are actually a master's degree with a lot of clinical experience, just kind of like an acupuncturist, where we have a master's degree and a lot of clinical experience, different experiences. Don't call me for surgery or setting bones or anything like it. The appendix is somebody else's job. But the reality, like pharmacists are there for a really long time, super smarts, and they're city meat. They don't get outside much. So they definitely, they all had low vitamin D levels and probably needed injections. So this one woman, and she was so nice. And every time one of these were Florida mosquitoes. These are the ones you can saddle up and ride around at the races. And so every time she'd get bit, she'd end up with this silver dollar-sized welt all over her arm. And she was like, and I'm sitting here and I'm mashing up some Bidens and I'm talking about it for that lingering cough after a cold and flu with clear and white phlegm. And I said, oh, I first learned about Bidens because it was good for bug bites and little abrasions. It was a nice antimicrobial. And she was like, it'll help. And I was just like, oh my God, that looks so painful. I mean, it was swollen almost a half an inch off her body. It was like hard red. So I was like, let's find out. And I mashed it up and it was only enough to cover half of that welt. And I finished telling my little stories, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, maybe 3 to 5 minutes had gone by. I was like, let's see what it looked like. And so literally it was cut in half. So everywhere the Bidens touched, it was normal, flat, no longer red and raised, and nor painful. The other half was still painful. So it was literally wherever it contacted, it reduced that histamine response of the body from the insect bite. And so obviously we got more, put it over the rest of it. And so within a few minutes, it had gone down to normal. So Bidens is great for that kind of thing. I like it as a mild antihistamine to eat if you're like, oh, my allergies are messing up. But I would say for eyes in particular, and very common to find in Apollo Beach and elsewhere, is mulberry. So mulberry leaf, drank as a tea, you can certainly make a wash for your eyes from it. You can mash it up and put it on. And so the leaves of that are specific for allergies, the oak pollen crap that we all get. The other one is, of course, stinging nettles. And so we have, like, I personally, just because it's easier to source like 20-pound bags of it, we get the stinging nettles from up north, Urtica, whatever the heck it is. But we have the heart leaf stinging nettles here. It works just as well. I struggle to keep any of them alive here in St. Pete, but I think Apollo Beach, probably a more zone 9B, maybe 10A. So if you get far enough away from the coast, you probably work. The other one I'm trying to think, like, what grows in Apollo Beach? Goldenrod. And so we have the seaside goldenrod. We have a fragrant goldenrod. There's a million different goldenrods. The leaves in particular are great. You can do, again, topically, internal as a tea for eye stuff and allergies. And doesn't have to be in bloom the way we oftentimes think about it. There's also, I'll do one last. So goldenrod is not the cause of your allergies. The pollen grains on that are too heavy to cause that kind of irritation. And so it gets blamed a lot. It's more likely that it's ragweed, and ragweed here in Florida blooms year round. Obviously, our oak pollen kicks everybody's butt in like the late winter, early fall. And then right after the oak pollen, we get the pine pollen gets released. So if you survive through the oak, now the pine kicks your butt. So the goldenrod, anytime, bloom or not bloom, it will help. Um, what's interesting is there is one that you have to be careful how you do it. So if it is ragweed that's kicking your butt, um, the if you start to recognize what it looks like, and its Latin name, it has the sweetest Latin name, ambrosia, right? Who doesn't want a cup of ambrosia? So I will say you have to find the ragweed, ambrosia spa. We have a couple species that grow here. You have to get it before it goes into flower, because it's the pollen off that plant that is causing you to have all the allergic rhinitis and stuff like that. So you pick the leaves and you make a tincture or dry them for tea, and you drink that before the ragweed season. And it will actually help with those allergies specifically from that. And it's funny, I want to say, so one of I grew up down in the Bahamas, Nabucco, and No Boodle was, I worked with him as a conch fisherman, owned a boat with him for a while, conch and lobster. And I didn't know the term shaman at the time. I would call him that now if he was still alive. And I, to this day, remember the first time he gave me Bahamian medicine. And it was maybe allergies, but I think I was getting sick. And it was a day or two ago. I was probably 12, maybe 13 years old. And he went and picked it. And I don't even remember what he calls it anymore. It was ragweed. It was ambrosia. And he goes and he picks a bunch of these. And he has this big old handful. We throw it in a pot. And he was like, I need a beer. And he was like, I need a really dark, bitter beer. And so we went and got, I think it's Dutch Grollish. I love Grollish. And it's got the little resealable thing. So he pops the top off and he pours it into a pot and he brings it to a boil. So it just started to boil over. He let it cool down enough. And he's like, drink it. And it did not taste good. It was so bitter. It was challenging not to vomit from it. And literally, I almost immediately broke a sweat from it. Diaphoretic, release exterior for my Chinese folks. And he was like, perfect, go jump in the ocean. And he was like, started chasing me until I jumped off the dock into the water. And I came out, I never got sick. One dose. So in higher dosing, really strong, it is diaphoretic, the ragweed. In lower doses, like a teaspoon in a tea, it's going to work on the allergies, the red eyes, the allergic rhinitis kind of thing. And I think I got you covered on that. So goldenrod, nettles, spidens, mulberry, and push comes to shove, the ragweed. And Daniel, you asked me about pregnancy. Daniel, are you pregnant? So acid reflux with pregnancy. Sorry, Daniel's a graduate. I got to give him a hard time. What I would say is ginger is always the go-to for that. And the problem is if they have a red tongue, then the ginger will actually piss them off. It'll make them worse. And that's when catnip comes in. So catnip, yes, cats like it. So you have to fight the cats for it if they have cats. But that is if they have a red tongue and they're getting that first trimester nausea and vomiting. That's the go-to. Also, the acupuncture point pericardium 6, which is 3 fingers below the bottom of the wrist crease on the palmar side. Between the 2 tendons right here. You can go to like one of the box stores and get C-bands. I like magnets for that. So find an herbalist or an acupuncturist who can put some magnets on you. And bonus, if you combine it with stomach 36, both those points are safe and indicated first trimester. If you Google stomach 36, well, actually here, yeah, I'm going to show off my sexy legs. So kneecap, I'm going to go in the lower border of the patella, 4 fingers below the bottom edge of the patella, 1 finger's breadth off the lateral side, off the shin bone. That's my shin bone. Off the lateral side is stomach 36. It's bilateral on both sides. So you do pericardium 6, stomach 36 on both sides. Stimulate it however you choose. But I'll tell you what, the one way to survive that first trimester keep food in her belly every second of the day. Snacks on the side of the bed. I don't care whether it's a Snickers bar, an apple, a beef stick, you name it. They have to have something in the belly. And the second their belly gets empty, the nausea is going to kick back up. So really important to emphasize that, both obviously for the nutrition of the baby, the growing baby, but also just so mom isn't feeling like crap at such an important time. All right. Oh, I see another question. Good textbook for plum pit. It's funny, you won't find a specific book on that. You might find a nice article on it in something like Acupuncture Today. I'm sure they've got some write-ups on plum pit. I hate to say it, if you Google it, it'll probably come up pretty pretty basic. It's horrifying for me to say that. The books we use, there's two Chinese medicine formula books. If you're not terribly familiar with Chinese medicine, the Chen and Chen, you grab, it's probably a maroon book. If not, oh yeah, look up on the shelf yep, right there. I think that might be the pet one, but that'll do. So Chen and Chen, it's too big of an investment for one thing. So there are a number of references. Oh yeah, that's the right one. So this, wait a second, I can't see my screen anymore. Wow, there we go. So this tome, this is the textbook we use in acupuncture school. Wait, there's a copy for you too. But this is a little bit more found. See a bunch of Hopoans in there. But there's probably some pretty good descriptions in there. I'm trying to think of there's a website everybody uses to reference their acupuncture formulas, and I yell at them all for doing it, but it's probably decent. But unfortunately, the language of Chinese medicine is challenging sometimes. Oh, Ashley's got more. Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna for anybody who can't see it, I'm struggling to identify a new very new niche. Food allergies, very possibly food sensitivities, corn, maybe nightshades, maybe gluten. Very, very random with no common foods during the days before the reaction, so not sure reactions last a week. Oof. Swollen red, itchy eyes, itchy skin, sometimes hives, sometimes not. Oops. Well, it's been the fun thing of the month almost. So, all right, Ashley, I'm going to ask two personal questions. Are you double jointed? By any wild chance? There is. I just lectured. Gosh, was that just last month? I just lectured up at the Medicines of the Earth conference about hypermobility, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and unfortunately, double jointed hypermobility, EDS, which is easier to say than Ehlers-Danlos. A number of other things show up with that. One of them is weird food sensitivities that will drive you wonky. Yes, I should. My thumb, yes, maybe my shoulders, can't tell. Yeah, so here's the fun test. Your elbow, oops, there we go. Your elbow should be at 180. It should not be bending down here. That's when a lot of people shows it. Yeah, wait, yeah, there we go. See, there's that extra 5 degrees. You're not supposed to do that. So with that comes and if you go and say this to a doctor, they'll say, oh, it's super popular. MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome. And unfortunately, it will drive you bonkers trying to. You're like, well, now I'm allergic to water. And sometimes you can do some really simple things like stinging nettles and burdock root. Those are excellent for that kind of systemic allergic reaction kind of thing. I hate to say it, if you're really bored, Google hypermobility or EDS, and you're going to find a lot about um, weird ass allergies. And there are some good support groups. It's a pain to get diagnosed, so just assume you do. Yeah, that's the guy. Yes, Tong one, same thing. So let me finish MCAS and I'll come back to Bancho Hopo one for you. And I'll just do a reminder. I'll do a station identification here in a minute. But if anybody has any questions, we got a couple people tossing in their questions. Feel free to ask away. You guys got me for another 45 minutes or so until my voice gives out. And throw it at me, Western Chinese. Figure something out. Give me my 2 cents worth on almost anything. The histamines, so we have mast cells in our throughout our digestive system, everywhere else too, and mast cells produce histamines, which are all of our allergic reactions and so forth. So stinging nettles is a go-to for settling things down. I really like the burdock root. Actually, burdock root kind of is a good lymphatic. I could put that in as a lymphatic too. It's fine to do at night. You can cook with it. I like just eating it. And the dosage is whatever. It's a vegetable. You're not going to hurt yourself with it. So long as the stinging nettles and burdock doesn't cause any kind of a histamine reaction, it is a safe one to do long term. It's sometimes the other reason that we see some of these weird food sensitivities and so forth show up is things like low stomach acid. And the low stomach, it's funny, we started the evening off talking about low stomach acid. And there isn't a test for that, unfortunately. So if you find that you get acid reflux when there's food in your stomach, like I had some mashed potatoes and I've got acid reflux, you probably have low stomach acid. If you get acid reflux when your stomach's empty, you probably have high stomach acid. The easiest test to see if you have low stomach acid is literally go to the store, buy some hydrochloric acid pills, HCl pills, take them with food. And if you go, oh my God, this guy's an ass, you don't have low stomach acid. Stop taking it, have a little baking soda, you'll be fine. If you're like, I don't know what this is supposed to do, and if you got this really deep crack going down the center of your tongue, you probably have low stomach acid. And that also could be related to weird food sensitivities. Long-term stress, I think all of us have kind of been under absurdly long-term stress since COVID. And so that I've seen a ridiculous amount of low stomach acid since COVID. And it's not from COVID. Ooh, I got the shot. I didn't get the shot. I got COVID. It's from the stress associated. So vagus nerve is responsible for your digestive system. It's responsible for the production of HCl and things like that. So it ties in. The other thing is I see a lot of people get triggered from exposure to, like, they get mold in their house. Since the hurricanes, so many of us around here have had mold in our homes. And that has triggered a lot of chronic allergies, MCAS kind of symptoms. It's been super hard on so many people. And so making sure there isn't a triggering mold or something like that in there. Oh, sorry. Ooh, wow, man, you guys are coming up with some doozies for me. Whew. All right. I'm going to come back to the book because this is a good one. Let's start with shingles. Which are so shingles. It's funny. Yeah, you guys are making my brain work. Is time to quit yet? No, I'm just kidding. Shingles is unfortunately really common. It can happen at any age. It is more common as we get into our 50s or older. You're more likely to see shingles. They start encouraging the vaccination for shingles around 50. And although shingles isn't deadly, I've never had it, but it is horrible burning pain and it can stay. So post-herpetic neuralgia, which is you got shingles and the burning pain from this nerve attack, never went away. And so I've really seen some people struggle with that. So the best thing is don't get shingles. And it's funny, and I got to do a quick aside. I'm not pro or anti-vax by any stretch of the imagination. I can safely say I have not had the shingles vaccine. I'm past 50. Um, but there is some decent research that came out about the shingles vaccine in a dramatic reduction in dementia. And it came out of Scotland, I think. And if you Google it, it'll come up. And I'm not too worried about dementia anyway. I've already lost my mind. But it's one of those things where it's like, I don't push people either direction, but if somebody's like wavering, oh, dang, she gets
That's
it every 3 months. That's horrid. So so I always say the shingles, the outbreak, it's related to the chickenpox virus, and we see it with nobody likes me to say this, but the herpes virus, there's like over 13 different things. It's Epstein-Barr virus, herpes, mono. So, the herpes we frequently associate with it, oral in general, all of the same virus family. Those viruses, well, I always say when one comes up, there's a weakness in the immune system, especially if it's showing up every 3 months. That's horrid. So doing basic things like making sure your vitamin D levels are not okay, but sufficient. So 30, according to blood work, is fine. I encourage everybody to be over 50. Ooh, I don't know about that. Okay. And then I always, for any of the herpes virus, I look to lysine. L-lysine, and it's amino acid. You get it as a single supplement, and it is a helpful in stopping the virus from replicating. It can be used topically or internally. More preventative internally. Topically can help reduce the severity of it. I also like lemon balm. Basically, lemon mint is specific for all of the herpes virus. It's also nice. It helps with digestion. It helps with stress. And the lemon balm can also be used topically for the pain and burning. I assume if you've had it reoccurring that many times, most likely in the same location, you probably have post-herpetic neuralgia. Just a wild ass guess. I love St. John's wort topically for that. So internally, St. John's wort is it's very safe herb, but it's contraindicated with any medication. And so I'm going to assume that most people are on some kind of medication. It's contraindicated with birth control, so many common things. So topically, it is 100% safe. If it's just a lingering nerve inflammation and burning, I would say look at doing a tincture. It's funny, that just came up recently, and I'll spare that aside. But also St. John's wort oil can be used topically for any of that. I'll actually, if somebody has a current outbreak, I'll take lemon balm and St. John's wort plants, dried or fresh, doesn't matter. I'll add some sort of cooling oil or just alcohol or water is fine, and make a plaster. So just literally make a big mud pie out of those herbs and put them all along that nerve root where that burning pain is coming up with the shingles is showing up. Looking at L-arginine tends to encourage outbreaks. L-lysine tends to discourage outbreaks. So L-arginine shows up in protein powders, supplements, energy drinks, lots of foods that are high in L-arginine. So doing your homework and looking for foods or supplements with any added or excessive amounts of L-arginine. And then I honestly, there's absolutely nothing wrong with like doubling up whatever the bottle says and taking lysine daily. I will say I take lysine daily. I work with sick people all day long, so I don't have time to get sick, honestly. So I take it for virus prevention. And I will say I'm getting older and I'm probably just a little vain. It also is one of the major building blocks for collagen. So I stay young and healthy for the rest of my life. So, if you need another reason to take L-lysine, it's also, as supplements go, really freaking cheap. Um, wow, one day. That's awesome. Yeah, lysine is, just as an aside, because I know there's some practitioners on here, I use very high dose lysine for dyshydrotic eczema. It's a very specific type of eczema, and it's the only thing that I found. Lots of other things help, but that has been one of my go-tos. And it was because I was treating a herpes virus on a client, and they said, I don't have time for this. We made the herpes outbreak go away in a day, but her dyshydrotic eczema went away. And then we experimented with it. And I've now treated 3 people with that. And it's like, it's a miracle. All right, I'm going to do a quick station identification because I went past that a little bit. If you don't know, I'm this crazy person spouting information at you all. I'm an herbalist and acupuncturist in St. Petersburg, Florida. We have a multi-practitioner practice. We also have a full apothecary of Western Chinese and some bioregional plants here that anybody can come in and say, hey, I need $1 worth of chamomile, and we're here Monday through Saturday for that. We've also got the herb school, both Western and Chinese herbal program, all the way from beginner to practitioner. We have clinical practice here for our student interns 3 nights a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We've also got the tea truck. Oh yeah, and we ship as well. Yeah, just email the office and we can ship it. And I don't even know what all of our phone numbers are. So, there's an apothecary phone number, blah, blah, blah. We've got a bunch of standalone classes. We've also got a tea and coffee truck outside that's here Wednesday through Sunday, where you can come hang out. We have a half-acre medicinal garden. That's a wonderful place to just come and explore. We have Mr. Fans. I know it's hot out. So we're here from 8 to 1. We've also got, besides just the wonderful garden with over 150 different medicinal plants from around the world here, we've also got a plant nursery with probably about 100 edible and medicinal plants. Emphasis on medicinal. Some fairly, like I have Eleutherococcus, Siberian ginseng. We have it potted up. It grows. Somehow or another, I've managed to grow it here. We've got that for sale. We've got Jiao Gulan, the southern ginseng from Chinese medicine. We've got yarrow out there. I think we still have one black cohosh plant out there, all kinds of crazy things, and a lot of our local Florida natives as well. So it's super appropriate to come by and check it all out. It's very normal for people to come by and just like, I've never been here. What do you guys do? And you'll get the grand tour. Fridays and Saturdays are always good days to come by. And there's lots of standalone classes, and all of our classes, or most of our classes, are online as well as in person. Our blood work series, which is a 3-part series looking at how to understand your own blood work, to be your own advocate, as well as some additional tests, some really basic stuff that you can either order on your own or ideally ask your doctor to order. So that you can find out how your B12 levels are, to see if your Epstein-Barr numbers are off the charts, checking a full iron panel, and looking at, recognizing. One of the things I always talk about is like, if you're dehydrated going in for your blood work, all your numbers are skewed. And I hate to say it, or discounted. If you're checking any of your hormones and you don't know where you are in your cycle, then it's kind of meaningless information. So really kind of educating people to be their own advocate as they go through all of this stuff. So, and we try to do this the last Friday of every month. What up, Samaya? Did you have a question, or are you just making funny noises over there? I was going to say, I can give her a hard time. She's my neighbor. Feel free to ask us any questions. It's also super appropriate to email in questions for us to answer on the next one. And then we'll put a recording of this on YouTube. I'm actually super excited. I've been threatening to put this on YouTube live. And so I had so frustrated with Facebook last month, because I ended up not doing it, that we got Instagram going too. Now it's outside my skill set. So this and all the last 5 years of these are uploaded and saved on YouTube. So you can go back. I know I spout a lot of information. I don't expect anybody to remember or do any of this. Did I actually catch up on the worst of these?
Mhm.
All right. Chastity, I wanted to read a little bit about Bansha Hopawan. So this was about the Langero reflux. And so Bansha Hopawan Pinellia Magnolia bark decoction is made up of Pinellia, the Bansha, Hopo, which is the magnolia bark, Fuling, which is a Poria mushroom, ginger, which is Shengjiang, and purple Perelia, Zisuya. In clinical manifestations, Meihi Chi is plum pitchy, a sensation that a foreign object, such as a plum pit, is stuck in the throat, cannot be spit out or swallowed, difficulty in swallowing food, possible coughing or vomiting, chest and hypochondric. That doesn't mean you're making it up. It's pain or fullness under the ribs. Globus hystericus, pharyngeal paresthesis, swallowing disorder in aspiration pneumonias, sleep choking syndrome, sleep apnea, and I can't even say that one. Swallowing disorders in Parkinson's, hysteria, neurasthenia, nervousness, stress, depression, panic disorder. There we go. So yeah, it's a pretty rocking thing. I missed half of this other question. I do apologize. Narcolepsy. How did I screw that one up? So narcolepsy, there's a couple of different types of narcolepsy. Not all of them are just falling asleep as you're talking. I do remember a guy my mother was dating. I was a little kid when I was first exposed to it, and she was like, well, I won't say his name, even though he's passed away. He's like, he's coming over, and just so you know, he might stop talking all of a sudden. It's okay. And I was like, I'm so confused, but literally just poop, right in the middle of talking, sitting on the couch. It was fascinating. But I have treated a number of people with narcolepsy. And for those of you who are practitioners, I know what narcolepsy is. I learned about it in school. Obviously, I learned about it when I was 8 years old. And that doesn't mean I understand it. Just because I read a set of symptoms doesn't mean I know anything about it. I can regurgitate them. I can tell you the subtypes and the controversy. Is it a seizure disorder? Is it a genetic, debates out there? So one of the things I always do when a client comes to me and says, oh, I've got XYZ disease, and I can sit there and go, oh, yes, I Googled that right before you walked in the door. The reality is, I know what it is, but tell me what it's like. Because if I get 5 people with narcolepsy, they may all describe it as a very different kind of thing. And so, we were talking about lupus earlier, and I was like, I know what lupus is. I know what I usually do for it, but even within it, there's physical manifestations that are different, and everybody's going to describe it differently. Their lupus is going to come up from a different standpoint. And that makes a difference on how we're going to approach it, the types of recommendations of diet, whether we're going to talk about stress management and so forth. So with narcolepsy, I remember the very first time I saw somebody with narcolepsy as a patient, I was like, what's it feel like? Because I knew, there's debate about it, but it's like people with seizure disorders can frequently tell you, I'm about to have a seizure, right? They have service dogs who will literally nudge them. It's like, yo, you're about to go down. So I was like, what does narcolepsy feel like? Can you tell? And she was like, I guess I kind of do. For a few seconds beforehand, it feels like my eyelids get heavy and they just kind of fall down. I was like, I can work with that. So what I found was the tongue and pulse on all probably a dozen people now with narcolepsy. All their tongues and pulses were very similar. And Chinese medicine was spleen qi deficiency. And it's funny, we have a specific formula that we use for prolapse, things falling down. And usually when we say that, we're talking about prolapse bladder or uterus or rectum and weird stuff like that. But in this case, it's like, oh, it's a prolapse of the eyelid. And I've actually used the exact same, I changed the formula a little bit, but I used the exact same formula. And I want to say it's cut episodes and the severity of the episodes by at least 50% most of the people. And the formula is Buzong Yiqi Tong. Raise the central qi. Oh yeah, you good. There you go. You got it. So Buzang Yichitang, with the chief herb in there is astragalus, which is this nourishing root that has an upward energy, but it's combined in this really fascinating way that it has blue pleurum, chaihu in there, and oddly enough, black cohosh in very small amounts. And I will spare you my ranting on because it's actually one of my. Well, come get it, Samaya. Catalepsy. Okay. Yep. See, I knew there's different types. The Buzang Ichitang would probably be a good consideration. I've tried acupuncture. Honestly, it didn't do a whole lot. Not to say somebody better than me wouldn't be able to figure it out, but I really had good success with Buzang Ichitang. I'll modify it in a perfect world. I'll also say I'm a big Go-To Cola guy. I think Go-To Cola, when I'm doing it as a customized formula, I'll almost always add Go-To Cola into it. It reduces inflammation in the brain. And I'm just looking at it. It's funny. Avoid El Argentina.
Argentina.
I think that's what it says. Oh, wait, where am I?
So this is separate from.
Oh, okay.
But
It's asking if you recommend IV fluid, electrolyte powder. I know nothing about that particular brand. It's funny. I current location, it's just us cool herbalists and acupuncturists, one spiritual worker. But in our old location, when we were downtown St. Pete, I brought a functional medicine doc into the clinic and really liked him. Nice guy. And one of the things he had was an IV bar and all that. And I don't like needles. And I know that always sounds a little weird, but I ended up tolerating it. I loved IV fluids. And so the actual IV, and I think this is more of a drink that you buy.
It's like electrolyte. Electrolyte, yeah.
And it was really funny because I am a bad water drinker. I am constantly dehydrated to my detriment. I have some chronic inflammatory gut things that are usually under control. But I will say, I'm working big events, working some long hours, teaching all day. I've been talking for 2 hours and I'm halfway through one small cup of mostly water and tea. And so I would go and get a bag of fluids with basically a Myers cocktail. That particular company, I have no idea. Don't have a strong opinion. Water is our friend. I would say as long as they're not screwing with the pH, making it alkaline. And I would say most of those electrolytes, some sort of there's usually a B vitamin in there. So look at the form of your B vitamins. It should be methylated, just on the assumption that half the people can't absorb ones that are not methylated. And look at the form of the minerals. And so usually you want one that's chelated or some sort of citric acid molecule smacked into it. So magnesium citrate and calcium citrate. And is that the best form? No, but it should, at a minimum, that should be there. So just kind of doing your homework with it, make sure there's not too many added preservatives. There's a lot of junk that gets tossed into those, and I just don't have a strong opinion. I will say a lot of folks, I don't think there's anything wrong with electrolytes. Actually, let me back that up. If you sit in an office job all day long and you're not sweating profusely, you probably don't need electrolytes. And if you do, you should see why your stomach acid isn't functioning correctly. If you're out working in the yard and sweating your butt off, interesting. Then I would say, no, you probably need electrolytes because you're sweating them out. You're losing at an abnormally high rate. Right now in Florida, I think we were outside for 2 hours and I probably lost a quart of water. And I'm sure some electrolytes went out with that. I tend to say there's some basic hydration things. It was like a little bit of honey or sugar in water with sea salt. And I don't remember the ratios. I've got a slide on it somewhere, but you could probably, literally sea salt has 99 different trace minerals. And so it's highly diluted salt will kill you if you drink too much. So just a little pinch in your water goes a really long way. I'm probably take my hand of supplements the same as most folks do, but I'm careful about those, and minerals in particular can really screw people up. I have hemochromatosis, which means I have too much iron. So when we start to look at those mineralizations, iron being a mineral, I actually have to be careful that no supplements I take have additional iron, because they'll literally like screw up a liver and lots of other things. Gray hair, a lack of copper. All right, we're getting down towards the end here. I would say it could be, but I think it's also important not to treat things that are normal. Menopause isn't a disease. Menopause is normal. I earned every one of these, and it had nothing to do with copper. And so as we age, we get gray hairs. Some people, it's usually genetic, get it a little bit sooner. Could it be a copper deficiency? I'm like, I haven't actually looked into that. I used to know the actual mechanism of that. There's a number of herbs, but the one Chinese herb in particular I love for grayed hair called He Shou Wu. It's a Polygonum multiflora, I forget. He Shou Wu, Mr. He's black hair is the translation. And I've literally watched that. My mother, at some point, she did dye her hair quite vigorously. She did not believe in getting older. By the time she hit her late 70s, she wasn't fooling anybody. And actually, I always say, don't treat family. I had her seen another acupuncturist here in the clinic, and somehow they talked her into doing raw herbs. He Shou Wu was a big component of that. And after about 6 months of drinking this, her stylist goes, Shirley, you got black roots coming in. What the heck? It was literally from this herb. And I've seen that happen time and time again. The downside is it can be rough on the liver. It is high in iron, so I don't take it. The reality is it's moistening, so it can be cause loose stools. So that's another reason I can't take it. And it's okay. Yeah, we can go a little longer. And I'll also say it's funny, like it's not to say the supplement industry tries to create deficiencies that we may or may not have. I would say copper out of ratio is toxic, as is many of our minerals. Do people have copper deficiency? 100%. And I oftentimes wonder, and I'm blaming everything on COVID these days, but with COVID, a lot of people, whether they knew what they were doing or not, were doing things to try to be protective against this very scary virus that was running around. And so a lot of people took zinc. Like for a long time, we've been saying zinc's good for the immune system, helps reduce colds and the length and time. And zinc is safe to a point, and it's good, but people tend to supersize everything. We're in America, we like to supersize stuff. And so zinc out of ratio with copper can deplete copper. And so when you look at a supplement class I teach on vitamin and mineral therapies, we should be looking, and it's like opinions vary as exact what the ratio should be, but around a 15-to-1 ratio of zinc to copper. So if everybody was popping 50 milligrams of zinc for 2 years around COVID time, they may have depleted their copper. Or the stress of COVID gave us all too many gray hairs. One of the two. I don't know which one it is. So I would say like testing for your copper levels before I would never supplement specifically with copper as a single herb. I think it should be done in proper ratio and based on testing. Same way, it's like there's a lot of things that you're like, no, see if you need it. Blood work's good for that kind of stuff. And I just saw one. Oh, I have heard that before. So no zinc for you. It may also be the form of zinc, because there are lots of different forms of zinc. So I have seen that before. It's funny. I think of zinc as warming. And so you have heat. Whoever said that.
Susie, that was, yeah.
So lower bad cholesterol and kidney health. So I'm going to start with kidney health just because the number one thing for kidney health is drink water. and no special water, just water. Um, Got to check all the screens here.
I got you.
Right? So, if you go to the nephrologist and you're like, you've got stage 3 kidney disease, and you're like ready for this list of medications, you'll say, drink more water. And so, no particular, like, filtered water is great, but water is the most important part of that. And you see a lot of, especially as folks get older, they really struggle because it's like frequent urination. If it's an enlarged prostate, they're getting up at night. It's bladder control. So it's like, it's easy to say drink more water, but a lot of folks, as they start to end up with those urinary difficulties, they start to restrict water, especially at night. And we see those kidney diseases coming from that. With kidneys, and I'm going to say outside of kidney stones, so kidney infection, kidney stones, different animal. But if we're just talking about kidney health, water and a lot of, and I'm going to switch from your physical kidney, the thing that we can, stir fry, to kidney, the energetic idea. And so in Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, Greek medicine, the kidneys are our essence, our jing. It is about our longevity, and our kidney energy is thought to decrease as we age. And so a lot of our nourishing herbs, like our ginsengs, our he shou wu, are a lot of our adaptogens, because we look at the adrenal gland on the kidneys is related to our stress. And so those things that help us adapt to stress all relate back to that kidney energy as well as our kidney health. And a specific one, that one's a harder question. So there's any of your adaptogen herbs, your nourishing adaptogen herbs would be great. Within Chinese medicine, it gets a little bit more precise because we're like, are we nourishing qi, yin, yang? And you do the wrong one, and then you poop yourself. And so that's no good. And protein in the 53 years old with protein in the urea, water would be my start. You may find, because there's so many reasons for protein in the urine, some of your moistening demulcents can be helpful. And I'm sticking with the safe ones, things like marshmallow root, the corn silk are nice, safe, easy ones. They're going to increase urination a little bit, so it would probably be more like a morning, afternoon kind of tea that might be helpful. It's funny, there's still going with water as my primary approach. Gotu kola, oddly enough, might be helpful. I obviously like Gotu kola. If you're local, the cucumber weed would be a really good choice. And actually, the Spanish needle, the Biden's elbow would be a good choice. All of those might be helpful. And I would almost say, like, I'm not going to say all 3 of those or all 4 of those tossed into one bucket would be correct, but creating formulations based on the overall pattern. And, usually I rant a lot about that. I don't know why I didn't rant about that today. Diagnostics. And so I always think it is important to not treat a symptom. Protein in the urine is a symptom of potentially 50 other possible things of what that could be. So whether you take a medical approach of, well, you got protein there, versus what's this energetic idea through Chinese, Ayurvedic, or Western energetic ideas of you, is the overall human hot, cold, wet, dry, deficient, excess, tense, and lax, is one of my favorite rants. So making sure you go and see somebody that looks at the whole person, not a symptom. Like, here's a steroid, you won't get that anymore, and now you got 10 other problems that'll screw you all up. There was something, I missed something else. Oh, cholesterol. So cholesterol, obviously, there's different aspects of cholesterol. There is an expanded, I think it's called Health IQ, which does a much more detailed type of cholesterol test that I encourage you to ask your doctor for. I think I got the right name. That lets you know what aspects of your cholesterol is out of whack, because there's VLDL, there's LDLs, and there's different types of LDLs and VLDLs. Some of them are a problem, some of them aren't. Some are more linked to exercise as the way to address it. Some are linked to stop eating those trans fats, eating healthier foods. And so choosing the right approach, all of them are correct. Like raising the HDL through exercise also lowers the LDL. And the way I always remember it, bad cholesterol, LDL is lousy cholesterol, HDL is happy cholesterol. So we want more of the HDL, less of the lousy. And VLDL is very lousy cholesterol, low density lipoproteins. It's okay. And so your bitter herbs in general are excellent for it. In particular, I like, I always say milk thistle is the one that's researched. Everybody forgets that artichoke is a thistle. So you can get the little pickled, you go to the olive bar at the grocery store or whatever, and you can get all those pickled artichoke hearts. Get those. Eat at least one of those a day. Milk thistle is something that you can incorporate any number of different ways. Any of the thistles, we have the bull thistle, grows wild here in Florida, has great success with that. Taking that before meals, I find is very helpful. But I think it's also important to recognize, I think this was the same person. There's some protein in the urine. The cholesterol went up. Maybe the blood sugar did, maybe it didn't. I will say, I think it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I don't remember what it was. And I had not been diagnosed with high iron. And so I hadn't had health insurance for like 10 years. I was like, fine. I was getting this one symptom. I was like, I guess I should get some health insurance. I should go see the doctor. Or I tell everybody else to get blood work. I'm a bad patient, blah, 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 blah. And so I went in, and I'm far from perfect, but I'm generally pretty healthy. I got my vices, but I'm not a big drinker. I don't eat dessert unless you put it in front of me, and then I will scarf that junk down. I don't go through the drive-through. I don't drink soda. I exercise. I'm not thin, but I'm not overweight. And I come back, my A1C was 5.8. My cholesterol was high. And I was like, what the heck? There's no way that my behavior was bad enough to warrant those kinds of numbers. And I'm like, whoa. And I like the doctor that I saw. I was like, she's got the script pad. Man, she's ready to write me a script for some Lipitor. Here's your metformin. And she was ready. And I was like, no. I was like, the other thing was my iron, my ferritin was high. And I was like, and it was like, not, oh, it's a little high. It was, oh, crap high. Like I was to the hematologist draining the blood out of my veins. And I was like, could the inflammation caused by my high iron levels be the cause of my cholesterol and blood sugar being elevated? Because my behavior does not warrant those numbers. And she was like, yeah. I was like, why don't we hold off on that script pad for now? I was like, give me 3 months. And I will admit, I got rid of a few of the yummy things that I was like. I do like my ice cream. And so that would show up once a week. Now it's once a month, unless you put it in front of me. And ultimately, as soon as I got my iron levels, all my numbers came back into great. And so looking for, like, certainly if you're out in the drive-thru and your blood sugar is elevated and you're sucking down all the Coca-Cola and things like that, yes, it's lifestyle. But if you're like, nah, it shouldn't be that bad, then I'd be like, see if there's another inflammatory, your body is creating a response to a stimulus. Find out what the stimulus is and ask your doctor to do a deeper dive and to explore the possible reasons why that cholesterol is there so that you can fix the real problem. It's not just about having one less slice of bacon. The other thing I'll say is cholesterol can be indicative of more serious things going on. Make sure you get a calcium score. I really like calcium because cholesterol in and of itself isn't as scary. It's when that stuff starts to clog your arteries. And so if you've got a blockage in your heart and that's this buildup of plaque that's in there that comes from cholesterol sometimes. And so a calcium score will look at whether there's impediments into your circulatory system. And that can really help you make more honest decisions about stuff. And good doctors order it automatically. A lot of them will go, oh, yeah, I guess I could. And they'll check the box and your insurance will pay for it. So it is, I forget what it's like. I think it's a CAT scan. It is with contrast. I would say unless you've had really bad results with contrast in the past, I'd say it's worth it if you've got some risk factors like high cholesterol and you want to sleep better at night to see whether it's a problem or not. All right. That was awesome. We're totally doing this on YouTube again. For anybody who missed all of this funness, I'm going to, at some point, I'm going to go outside and have fun at Blue Ridge, Full Moon Market. Obviously, my brain is done. We're going to go outside and have some fun. I'm going to be back here to teach my class tomorrow with half a brain. I hope you join us in the future. Feel free to share this. Email in your questions. If you're anywhere close to us here, I hope I see you by the tea truck as a client, student clinic, daytime. Come buy some herbs, see what we got, or just go bring your lunch and hang out in the garden because it's a beautiful place to, share your burdens with some of the trees out there.
Susie says, go drink some water and relax your throat now.
Dang right. All right. Bye, y'all. See you next time. Come get those plants, Maya. All right. So many buttons to turn off. How do we turn this one off? Live. End stream. Bye, y'all.